Okay, welcome to our COSIN webinar today. I'm Amy McLaughlin, and I serve as the COSIN Initiative Director, uh, Cybersecurity Initiative Director for COSIN. And as you know, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And today we're going to talk about how we intentionally and purposefully build cybersecurity and cyber safety into our organizational culture, instead of bolting it on as an afterthought or as a technical problem as opposed to an organizational challenge. And this is one of the challenges many of us face on a daily basis, is that oftentimes people see cybersecurity as a technology issue that somebody in IT should solve rather than as an organizational threat. So our panelists today are going to give us their thoughts on how to engage all the members of our school district communities in protecting themselves and their school districts. So I'm going to start by having our panelists introduce themselves today. We have a couple great panelists with us today. And I also want to point out that one of our panelists, unfortunately, due to some unforeseen circumstances, wasn't able to be here. So Tony, let's go ahead and start with you. If you could introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Amy, and for organizing this program. My name is Dr. Tony Harvey. I work with MSD of Wayne Township in Indianapolis. I have been in this area for the past 14 years. And in Wayne, MSD Wayne, we have over 16,000 students. We also have over 2,000 staff members. And our responsibility here is to make sure that technology is prime, it is stable, it is safe, and it is as fast as it can be. I'm excited to be part of this panelist, and I'm looking forward to having a good discussion with all of you.
Right, thank you, Tony. And Rod, if you go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much to you and Jill for being here. And Tony, I'm happy to be able to spend this time with you too. And I apologize to everyone. Like last week, I got a horrible cold. And yes, even in these COVID times, colds still exist. And I don't get sick often, but when I do, it's a doozy. So bear with my voice, and I'll try to do the best I can. I'm the Director of Technology and Information Services for Community High School District 999, which is a high school district that serves just grades 9 through 12. We have 2 buildings and about 5,000 total students, and we're about an hour west of Chicago. I've been in my director role here this is my 27th year. And I started in the technology field back in 1977 as a COBOL programmer, taught myself to code, and worked with a very small company at the beginning that developed student information systems and financial HR information systems for schools. So I've been in the school IT ed tech business in one way, shape, or form for another for about 45 years.
Fantastic, Rod. So good to have you. And also a quick additional note, Rod also serves as the chair of the COSIN Cybersecurity Advisory. So I want to make sure I recognize that role. And Tony is also a member of our Cybersecurity Advisory team. All right, so let's get started. Rod, you recently this month wrote an excellent blog for COSIN about what you wish superintendents knew about cybersecurity. Let's take that. Well, first of all, if you would summarize your thoughts in that space, and then take that a bit further. What do you wish not just superintendents knew, but school boards and school district leaders knew about cybersecurity? And how have you taken steps to help them build their knowledge and experience?
Great, Amy. Thank you so much. And thanks for the opportunity to write the blog. It was a fun one to write. And I think very pertinent anytime I talk with anybody about information security and data privacy for that matter, there's this common misconception that you mentioned earlier that that's a tech thing. They've got it handled. And it is, and it isn't just a tech thing. Just to kind of recap some of the same points for the superintendents that actually apply to really all leadership in a district as well as the board. For us, it's all about managing risk. You know, as individuals, as school districts, we all face a variety of risk, and certainly in today's information security world, there's a lot of risk. And whether we're the tiniest district there is or the biggest mega district there is, whether we invest billions of dollars in security or not, it's not a matter of if we get some kind of an attack or breach, it's when. So this idea of preparedness applies to us all. When it comes to the leadership standpoint, it's really, I like to look at it as a distinction between responsibility and accountability. You know, we all have some level of responsibility in this, but our leadership, superintendent, board are accountable for what happens in a school district, whether an employee does something that they shouldn't, or whether we get a ransomware attack. You know, ultimately it's going to be the superintendent that's going to be on the news. So they're the ones that are accountable. And in order to help them be accountable, unfortunately, it often falls on us as tech leaders to push that conversation, because oftentimes the superintendents and district leadership are in that same camp with everyone else, where they just believe, oh, this security stuff is Rod's thing. He's got it handled. But it's just critical that we engage them in a dialogue around cybersecurity with them and their team. And a huge plug for COSN's Trusted Learning Environment SEAL program here. I'm proud to say that we're a SEAL recipient as of June, the first district in Illinois and the 19th in the US. I can tell you that it's an arduous process. And I can tell you that if you do nothing else with the TLE, no reason to get it if you don't want to actually earn the SEAL. But the self-assessment process that comes with that is very doable by your leadership team. And I would highly encourage that as maybe a first step to start a conversation with your team. It allows your district to self-assess where you fall in the 5 main practice areas. And it's a great way to start that, because being ready from a security standpoint it's a learning management issue. We're a learning institution, so it's a learning issue. It's not just a tech issue. And I think the other important thing that leadership at all levels needs to know, and I think in our district, I'm fortunate enough to work with a team that's kind of gotten the message over the years, and they're on board with it. But defending ourselves against this stuff is not always cheap, and it's not always easy. And whether it's a matter of budget allocation, whether it's a matter of staffing, whether it's internal staffing or external help, and frankly, it's a matter of time, you know, at times, whether it's our time or using the time of staff. So I think to summarize real quick, some of the things that I've kind of done specifically is, I mentioned it, and I'll mention it again probably a number of times as I talk, the COSN Trusted and Learning Environment self-assessment. That's just a great way to start. The other thing that I've done, I mean, is Amy knows, over the past 3 or 4 years, I've kind of immersed myself in the security field a little bit and just really gotten to learn and grow myself a lot in that area. Through that growth process, I've been pretty open about sharing that with our leadership team, and just to kind of bring that to them. The other thing that happened in our state, and it may be happening in some of your states, is data privacy requirements, mandated legal requirements for school districts and the vendors that serve them have kind of went out the roof. A year and a half ago, we had some very significant legal changes in Illinois in terms of school districts basically not being able to share covered student information with a vendor unless a signed data privacy agreement was in place that met a lot of these things. For us, that was just tremendous. That was, an arduous, awful process to go through. And it makes a lot of sense. And it helped me even further promote that conversation, at leadership levels, where many times I would have agenda items on a meeting that dealt with data privacy or security, where maybe previously that it was never on there because it was all assumed to be a tech thing. And I'll let my voice rest for a minute, and Tony, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rod. I just want to add to what Rod just said. It's important for IT departments or technology individuals to explain to the top hierarchy the cost of outage. And if we can protect ourselves from outages or for lack of productivity, it always goes a long way to make sure that we have faith in our systems. So explaining to our superintendents and board members how important it is to do the basic policy requirements. If it's got to do with password policy or other security policies, and supporting the department to spread those goes a long way, because users are very critical in the management of our cyberspace. And if we can get our users, especially our top hierarchy, to understand the importance of adhering to basic principles, multi-factor authentication, what DDoS attack is, and all those kind of stuff, that will trickle down, because you need their support to be able to spread the word to all our staff and all our users. So Rod nailed everything that needed, the basic stuff that needed to be done, but leadership has to be sought. It's important that we don't tell leadership that we are educating them. I always say we are informing them, because you don't want to go and try to educate your superintendent or your board of directors or trustees. So you need to take that subtle role that I'm informing you, I'm chatting with you, instead of lording yourself over them, because they are the ones who will keep pushing until our users understand that security has become one of the production areas that cannot be ignored. Those days they were ignored, but now bad actors go for everything. Even if you think you don't have anything to offer, just disrupting you for a couple of days or weeks is all that they want. And ransomware is one of the bad ones. So top hierarchy are really important to the success of an IT setup in any educational institution.
Do you mind if I
go ahead,
chime
Rod.
in once more? Amy, awesome points, Tony. I could not agree more on the, as you were describing, the modeling in effect that leadership has to do to help us as tech leaders enforce and implement some of the things that may not be welcome. And it made me think of one other thing that I neglected to mention, and I would be remiss if I did not, was that part of leadership being accountable ties right into the managing of risk that I talked about. The differentiation is that as IT leaders, it's up to us to put plans and procedures and tools and controls in place to mitigate risk, right? To when we know we're vulnerable in this way, we know it presents this risk, here's what we can put in place to hopefully prevent that. What the district leadership has to provide for us, though, is what is their tolerance for risk. If if we're looking at, let's say, one of our critical information systems, like our students' information system, if we had some kind of a catastrophic event, whether it be security related, natural disaster related, any other thing, what is the tolerance level that the district has in terms of how long can we be without that particular resource? That helps inform us as IT leaders. Do we need to put in place like an Amazon.com solution where our system can't be down for more than a second? Or is if it's down for a day, it's okay. So that's kind of an important dialogue that has to occur as well.
Okay, thank you, Rod and Tony. So what I heard is some really key takeaways for informing and helping your district leadership in grow in this space, right? One is supporting them and being accountable, providing them access and walking through resources like the trusted learning environment assessment can be a really good way to help bring them up to speed on the accountability piece, and also recognizing that these are ongoing conversations, right? I would add one additional piece is that I strongly encourage all districts to make sure that their IT leader has a seat at the leadership table, that they're not reporting up through multiple layers, because these conversations are critical to the organization's success. So taking it from our leadership level to our teachers. Tony, I'm going to start with you. In addition to helping school district leaders understand the importance of cybersecurity as an essential capability in how we protect student data and consistently make sure that our education environment is available to support education, educators, and students, what do teachers need to know? And what would you recommend in terms of steps you can take to help teachers continue to be informed and understand their role in cybersecurity?
Thank you, Amy. I thought Rod was doing well with his voice, so you should go back to Rod for him to continue with his voice, but I'll take this up. I will say that I want to ask the question, what do these bad actors want from us, and how do they try to get those? If I can set that table, we can go ahead and try to protect the kind of assets that these bad actors or hackers want, all right? And most of them use phishing method, all right? They use social engineering and other methods to pry information. All they need is your basic confidential information to be able to gain access to your system, whether it's a laptop or a Chromebook or a server or whatever it is. They want that first level information. And it's even worse when that account has elevated privileges, then it makes their work easier. So they use phishing methods to pry you, scam you, to get information. Once they get multiple accounts, they will be able to use that information to produce a DDoS attack. I want to make sure that people understand what a DDoS attack is. It is multiple computers being attacked at the same time, or being asked to produce so much information that your network will be overwhelmed. How do we make sure that teachers and students know what phishing is, what DDoS attack is? We have to make sure that we are educating them all the time. We are making sure that they know what data breach is, because all these can lead to data breaches, all right? When they phish you or when they DDoS you, it can lead to data breach. And data breach means that they've gotten in there, they've gotten all your pertinent information, meaning your student ID, if you have social security number, if you have a home address, if you have a phone number, if you have your date of birth, all those kind of information are very, very important to be protected. These hackers want this information to be able to sell them on the black market, or to just cripple your production there. So we need to make sure that all those things don't lead to ransomware. I'm going through a tree right now, because at the end of it, you have ransomware, which indicates that these users have enough information to halt your production environment, and that makes it difficult for your servers and your firewall and all the other appliances to work. What are some of the things that could cause that? It is IoT devices. When we bring in our devices that have the ability to connect to the internet, and those are minuscule devices, very small devices, and they have access to the internet and they are not protected. These are some of the things that could cause problems, because most of the people, most of our users don't reset the password on those IO devices. They make sure they just use their devices the way they got them, the username that they got them from Best Buy or wherever they bought it from. Those usernames and passwords are still there. So we as IT teams or IT department need to make sure that our teachers are doing basic housekeeping. Basic housekeeping means that they have a strong password and they have a username. You don't share the password with anybody, and you don't use the same username and password on multiple applications. Make sure that most applications you have different usernames and passwords, especially the password, because sometimes you can't change the username, and you don't write your password and username and put them under your keyboard. That is a no-no. That's an easy way for asking your custodian or someone doing man in the middle or visiting to be able to get your username and password. We have to also make sure that our data is encrypted. Data in motion and data at rest should be encrypted, because when data is not encrypted, it could be intercepted by any person who has the ability to intercept, especially man in the middle. And it's also important for us to comply with basic institutional protocol. What are some of the protocols that have been set up by your local institution? Some of them could be that your password should be more than 8 characters. It should have an uppercase number and a symbol, password complexity. Or some of them could say that you need to have a passphrase. Passphrases are normally stronger. So basic ones, when you're getting off your machine, you need to make sure that you don't leave it out there, all right? You need to safeguard your machine. So all teachers, all students, if you're going for a break or using the bathroom or you have a 15-minute break, all you got to do is to lock your machine. Don't leave your machine open, because you are susceptible to attack when your machine is wide open and anyone can get access to your computer or your laptop or your Chromebook. We also want to educate our users to back up their data. Accidents could happen, but when it does happen, you should have a data source to go pull your original data from. So most schools will create drives that you can store your stuff on, but is it safe to store your stuff on MindDocument and your download and your homepage? That is the place that most people will save their data, and we would say that save it at least in your Google Drive or in the drive that has been created by your institution for you to store your data, because your institution or your school district may be backing up the data, and you want to make sure that when the computer crashes or your school has been hacked or attacked, your school district can restore your data for you. You need to have good password management practices. It is important. I want to stress on that. Password is the key. You need to make sure that you protect them as much as possible. If you have to use a password generating machine or software, great, but please do not use the same password over 20 applications, because you are making the life of the attacker so easy, you don't want to even think about it. I think that's what I would tell my staff. I would make sure that they adhere to SETA and security education training awareness programs, and make sure that everyone knows how to protect themselves, because they need to think before they click, all right? Anytime that you find a link that you are tempted to click on it, just look first. Make sure that you are watching what you click on. And they also bring devices from their homes. I want to make sure that before they bring devices, their BYOD device to school and connect to our network, their personal devices are updated, the devices are patched, because we don't want them connecting to our network and they become a source of vulnerability for us to get tempted, to get attacked by unscrupulous people. The last one I'll add is multi-factor authentication. Most insurance companies are requiring us to do it. I think it's a good practice to have MFAs or 2FAs. where is the resistance? The resistance is coming from staff who don't want to use their personal cell phones to authenticate because they are not being paid to use their phones to authenticate once or twice or 3 times a day. My question is, would you want the school district and your students who you are teaching, those are our most important people in the school district, to be out of school or out of commission for 4 or 5 days because the network is down through your misdeeds or through whatever you're not doing well? So we need to really harp on multi-factor authentication. School districts can enable it, but the resistance, we need to find a way to fight, or not to fight, to explain to our users that MFAs are so important these days to making sure that our accounts are secured. Yep, thank you so much.
Tony, those are some really great components of cyber hygiene, right, that we wanted to make sure teachers are aware of. And as we think about that, Rod, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. You've had success with building some support from your teachers in your organization. What's worked for you? What kind of fun things do you do to help teachers engage with cyber hygiene and understand their role?
I don't know if I'm necessarily always the purveyor of fun in this area, but I mean, I'm a fun guy, but I would say, Amy, that one of the things that I've always done is whenever I'm trying to educate people or motivate people to take certain actions in these areas, which there are certain things we can lock into place, like Tony mentioned, password complexity and all of that. But you can't create a password unless it's X, Y, or Z. There are a lot of things though that we're kind of on the honor system, and we're hoping that we've trained our staff well and that they can go out and make the right decisions. One of the things that I think helps with that is to, whenever possible, try to tie what you're teaching to staff and what you want them to embrace is important to their personal life. There's so much overlap now with technology use in personal lives and in work lives. For example, a story that I might tell people when I'm trying to help them understand the value of, as Tony mentioned, having unique passwords for each different site and using multi-factor. I said, hey, imagine you're a Target shopper, you love Target, and you just got an email from Target that said, we've been breached. You know, your login credentials may now have been exposed. So you can probably pretty much count on the fact that hackers have that, and they're now trying to access things. Pretty easy for them to figure out where you bank and where you work, and they're going to be using those same logins and passwords to try to get to your bank accounts, to your investment accounts. If you've used the same password and login on Target as you do at your bank and your work account and everywhere else, and even worse, you're not using multi-factor, it's game over. You know, so just kind of stories like that, where there's so much in the news about that it's something that I think they can relate to. And tying right into that and what Tony said, we do phishing awareness campaigns with our staff. We use a tool, and basically every 2 weeks we fish staff, and we have it kind of set up into it automates the groups in terms of what the level of difficulty is that it presents to staff. So as somebody masters and properly identifies emails as phishing, the challenge for them increases each time. Because, I mean, as we all know, humans processing of email is probably the biggest attack vector that we all face, no matter how much security investment or personnel we have. Some emails are going to get through. There's no choice. For sure, that email to the payroll person that says, hey, I'm the superintendent, I need all the W-2s immediately, is going to get through. We need to rely on people to be able to identify that and to develop those skills. So in addition to the phishing campaigns, there's periodic reminders that I'll send out to staff, especially during the hurricane in Florida. I sent a special email out to staff and said, hey, I know we're all feeling for the people in Florida. Many of us might want to contribute to this cause or that cause. Please don't click on a link in an email that you get. If you want to contribute to the Red Cross, go to their site. On the privacy side, and to me, privacy and security they're different, but they're so tied. Again, one of the things that, good or bad, that the state laws that were passed for us kind of caused us to really double down on was these days, when it comes to classroom technology that's available and the ease of access to that technology, it's the wild, wild west. Gone are the days decades ago that in order for a teacher to use a new piece of software in a school, they needed to talk to IT, and maybe we even needed to procure a server and install stuff. And now it's as easy as www. Hey, I saw this new cool software. I want to share all my student data with this company.com. So we have really worked to educate teachers on the significance of student data and how valuable it is and how important it is that we protect it, and that they really play a key role in that. So we have a process where teachers, if they want to use a new application, whether it's free, whether it's paid, it really does not really impact that. There's a process they go through where they request that, and then we're able to vet it and kind of assess, what data is being shared or not. And in Illinois now, we have to actually have a signed data privacy agreement in place with that vendor if we're going to share. So that's something that we've leveraged. We were kind of doing that already, but it was kind of nice that it gave us kind of that legal arm to say, well, this is state law now, we got to. So those are a few things, not all necessarily fun, Amy, but they're something anyway that makes us feel like we're trying to condition human behavior so that when we can't control it with technology tools, that they're stopping and thinking and hopefully asking, or hopefully just deleting that email if it doesn't look right.
Fantastic, Rod. I appreciate that, Tony. Those are great ideas for not just how we work with teachers, but also how we educate our whole staff, including our non-teaching staff. I have a follow-up question on non-teaching staff. From your perspective, are there special or specific groups of non-teaching staff we need to make the extra effort to put some additional training or some additional supports in place, additional opportunities for them to learn in place based on the kind of information they're handling or the systems that they're working with? And either one of you can take that question if you want to start. That's great.
I will pick up first. One of the areas, or one group that we need to really work with are our vendors. Our vendors tend to have devices in our network, and they can come in. They think they can come in all the time and have access. We don't know where they are remoting in from. And we also have teachers or substitutes who come in all the time. Regarding our vendors, we need to make sure that we are providing them with a secured tunnel, whether we provide them with VPNs to be able to remote in, and we knowing the exact dates and time they are remoting in and what they are doing. We need to check the accounts to make sure that we are segmenting them from our entire network, because there is no reason for an HVAC vendor to have access to Skyward or to Power School or to any SIS. They have nothing doing in there. So why would we intermingle or allow them to co-mingle? We need to isolate our vendors so that they have direct access to the systems that they are trying to manage remotely, and they get out without prying into other areas that could be a source of vulnerability. We are not saying all our vendors are bad, but we have a responsibility to educate them. I'm not using the word educating like we're not informing them because they are vendors. We are educating them on the ramification of having a VPN username and password stuck on their laptop in their office that everybody comes in there to access. So isolating them is very important. We're talking about PTAs and our substitute teachers. Everyone should have an account. Everyone who has a role to play in our school district. If you are not a regular staff, you still need an account to log into any device on our network. That is the only way that we can apply policies to those accounts to make sure that we can track down where the vulnerability is coming from. We can lock accounts, we can apply policies and updates and patches. But if we allow service accounts or guest accounts to log onto our systems, there is no way that we can track down all the malicious codes and ads or those things coming into our system. So I would want to talk about those two areas, our vendors and our substitute teachers and all those who are not regular employees of the educational institution.
Awesome. Rod?
Sure. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, I'll reemphasize again the idea of phishing awareness and training, especially as I kind of alluded to when I talked before, in some of those areas that are handling very sensitive or confidential information. So like our payroll staff, our human resources staff, our special ed staff, those people that are dealing with that information could be, especially in the financial area, in the business, payroll, and HR, our spaces, they would be prime targets for someone to try to, like I mentioned earlier, and it's happened in school districts here in Northern Illinois, where a payroll person got an email from somebody purporting to be the superintendent that wanted a copy of all the W-2s sent to them, and it was sent, not to the super, obviously. So I think, there's certain groups like that. I mean, in addition to maybe requiring greater levels of multi-factor and, some of those technical things that we can employ, but in terms of training and developing their skills at an even higher level to be able to discern that and question that a lot more. And as Tony mentioned too, I think that type of awareness training is especially critical for surprisingly, perhaps those people in our districts that are much less frequent users, maybe your custodial staff, or that just don't spend all day, every day in front of a computer dealing with email after email. They might be just every once in a while they check, and they just aren't as attuned to things that they may be there. And finally, one other twist to the data sharing idea is, again, back in the day, there was no Google Drive, there was no 365 drives, there were network drives that were local. And you could still share files and folders with folks, but generally it was in the scope of your physical domain. Google Drive, I mean, we have probably 60 terabytes worth of Google data for our district. And we put as many controls and have as many data loss prevention technologies in place that we can. But ultimately, it's up to the users and us to help them understand the implications of not setting the sharing permissions correctly on a doc. I think that's one particular area. It's just incredibly difficult to police and manage, and we try to educate people as much as we can, but we're really relying on folks to, again, think about that, and whatever the defaults are, they may not be something that you always want to accept. And don't just share this with anybody that has the link and give them edit rights just because it's too hard to put in all the names. I think that kind of awareness is something that we try really to do as well. And sorry, Amy, one more piece, and again, a plug for the TLE. This is a direct link to something that the TLE really focuses on. Is one of the measuring points that's involved in the SEAL, is that when it comes to professional learning around information security and data privacy, sure, the standalone stuff is important. That annual meeting you have with staff, the periodic workshop you have for this. But what's also important is whenever any professional development or activities are going on, to think of ways and to make sure that when possible and when appropriate, that information security and data privacy as it relates to that topic is kind of embedded in there and at least stated. Again, it doesn't have to be a long thing, but just the more it can be talked about, the more it can be just made part of our just normal operations. This is just something that we do.
Yeah. Fantastic. So those are all some really great tips, both in terms of staff who are particularly targeted, and then also to Tony's point, we can't forget about vendors and our technology staff who work with them in connecting them up to our systems and making sure that we have really good processes and processes, procedures, and expectations are clear. So last group together, I'm going to talk about them as a collective. How do we help our students, parents, and guardians know what they need to know to be successful navigating and protecting themselves, protecting their information, and interacting with their school systems? What have you done to help build that cyber safety culture? What do you recommend doing to help educate students and parents, guardians?
Students these days, all they do is be on the internet. All right, there's nothing off the internet. So you're talking about their gaming, their social media presence, and their homework on their Chromebooks. So everything is about internet for our students. And we all know there are cyber predators, all right? There are people just scouring the internet for vulnerable students or children. So we need to make sure that our students are protected. They know their rights. They know what to do when it comes to cyber predators. There are also malware that we need to protect them from because they are always click happy. They want to click on everything that is cool. So that is another source. And they always want to see the cheapest thing they can buy, all right? So there are all these ads and commercials that they want to click on. And then we also have identity theft. But in all those cases, how do we protect them? We need to teach our students about password and privacy. What is privacy? What can you share at any point in time? Do you share your student ID and your password with your friend so they can do your homework for you? Do you share your social media account with anybody else? What can you honestly put out without jeopardy, giving too much information to someone who is looking out for students to pry? Your ID, your date of birth, your home address, those are easy ways of creating accounts. So we need to let our students, we need to teach, and we've been teaching our students about password protection, and we've also been teaching them about privacy. The other thing that we need to work on is how to monitor them and how to communicate. We want to monitor our students in such a way that they don't feel vulnerable and they are open to us offering them ideas. Monitoring means that we're looking out for bad IP addresses, bad sites they are visiting, and we find a good way of communicating with them without they thinking that Big Brother is looking over their activities. But we're going to look out for all the bad stuff, find a way of contacting them and explaining to them that this website you've gone to is a PAC website and it has all this potential bad stuff on that stuff. So we as an institution, needs to find a way of not prying into their privacy, but helping them understand the concept of privacy and password protection. Location is important. So we would recommend that they turn off their location, especially if they think that they are in a very dangerous position, because we want to protect them and we don't want anyone who wants to attack them to know the exact location they are. How do you match that with the father or the mother or the parent trying to locate their children because they've turned off location, or because they cannot be identified where they are? And so those are the kind of stuff that we are doing here to make sure that our students are protected. One other thing that I'm going to add has to do with using secure wireless access, all right? You don't want to go to McDonald's or Burger King and just log on to any machine, any internet at all. You want to make sure that you have your own hotspot on your phone, or when you are home, your router is up to date and your password is secured. You change the default password on your home router. Make sure that every update that counts, because you are not IT literate. When your service provider provides you with your update, go ahead and update it, because they have found something that they think will be able to protect you from bad actors or from hackers. So you want to make sure that your internet that you are connecting to is secure. Please update your router, update your switches, whatever you have. Make sure that you are updating them. And then parents, they should try anything that has parental control. Please go ahead and implement it, because you want to help your students to be able to thrive. So if you can protect them by blocking certain websites that are not conducive, please use any tool you can find to make sure that sites that are not appropriate, or that would be a source of vulnerability to your child, you are blocking those sites to help your students succeed. We are doing those in our schools, and we are required by CIPA to make sure that we have a content filter that filters out everything that is not good for your students. So from the school's perspective, we are doing that for your children, but the students and their families also have a role when they go home to make sure that sites that the students are visiting on their personal devices, because our Chromebooks and laptops always proxy back to the district. So we are doing that if they use our Chromebooks, but on a personal phone and a personal device, we don't have control over those. So parents and students should make sure that they are visiting sites that are safe and secured for those students. Rod, that's what I have for now. You may pick it up.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. For me, this particular area, students, parents, and guardians, has a lot of overlap that is influenced by the teacher group. When I think about it, our students spend the majority of their waking hours Monday through Friday with our teachers. So, and I think kids learn behaviors and learn from people that hopefully are modeling the type of awareness and the type of good digital behaviors that they should learn. So I think back up in the teacher area, that's one of the things we really have to help teachers understand, is that they need to model these right behaviors for kids. And again, another plug for the TLE, one of the in the teacher practice area, there's a bunch of sub things in there, and a couple of the requirements are best practices for classroom. There's a whole classroom part of the TLE that focuses on what happens there. And there are a number of things in there that really speak directly to this, that teachers need to model this, that even when it comes to parents, that they need to be communicating with parents when appropriate. How is privacy and security handled in their classrooms? Because I think, again, much like students, probably a majority of the communication that teachers receive from a school district is from teachers. So I think they're really kind of our main group that will help us to train and inform our staff and our kids. We also have in our schools like a digital citizenship and literacy program. It's not a separate class, but our instructional coordinators work with our staff, and wherever possible, they try to integrate that into lessons. Much like I talked earlier about integrating the concepts of information security or data privacy in a meeting, they're trying to work with teachers to integrate this there again. So it's not something that is just once a year, okay, it's time for me to talk about security now, that it's something that applies to everything. And then of course we do a lot of the other things, like, you know, when you have an open house or other school events, to try to have posters, to try to have stuff that brings that awareness up. And I think another thing that goes without saying, but that is part of the message that we try to deliver to kids, is this whole idea of your digital life lives forever. So that picture that you shared of you doing something that you shouldn't be doing, those words that you wish you could take back, that you posted on site XYZ, potentially your employer is going to find that and not find you a good option. So again, just trying to embed just the reality of that in our communications with kids.
Rod and Tony, those are excellent points. Of course, you know, modeling the behaviors that we want to see from our leadership, and having our teachers model those for parents and students, inform them and provide the context in which we're working and protecting each other and protecting our organization, our data. Huge steps and huge opportunities for helping everybody in the school district ecosystem be part of the solution, as opposed to just viewing this as a technology challenge. So I want to appreciate both of you for your time today and your words of wisdom and your recommendations. For those of you who are online right now, there are links in the chat to the TLE documents that Rod recommended, and also some features from COSIN's past articles on Rod and Tony and the works that they've done in their respective districts. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. And again, if you need additional resources and support, please visit cosin.org. Thank you very much and have a really good day.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.